I was at my desk at the University of New Hampshire that Tuesday morning on October 7th, 2003, when I got the phone call saying, "Valerie, they're digging up the street. You know what they found on Chestnut Street?"
The city worker is out there to repair a sewer line, and he's digging a hole, and he hits something and looks down in there, and there's this bright blue sewer pipe, of all things, sewage, running across the feet of coffins.
You know, these bones underneath the street are not animal bones. They're human. They tell a story. They have a life. They have a history. They have wishes, wants, desires, just like any human being had.
I knew what was under the street at Chestnut Street. A lot of people knew. There was a marker on the corner saying that this is the site of the so-called Negro burying ground. We put that sign there 3 years before the street was dug up.
And yet, all truth will out. Here we are now in this case of this city worker hitting the sewer pipe, instead of ignoring it, reported it.
So it's a case of seeing is believing, I suppose. This is why it's important to preserve historic sites. We do know that during the period of time that that burial place was active, the vast majority of the black people in Portsmouth were actually enslaved.
People came here on ships from the West Indies and Africa. And those ships stopped in Newport and New Bedford and Boston and Salem and Portsmouth and Portland. And people were sold from those ships.
We pride ourselves in New England with historic cemeteries, never saying that beneath the pavement we trod upon, there's a people buried in a ground just as sacred.
You know, if you go anywhere in New England and you're looking at any of the brochures that promote a town here, you know, it's picturesque, it's the rolling hills, it's the colonial homes, it's the Revolutionary War vets, it's the Civil War. But the minute we include the history of a black person, a person of color, it asks us to look deeper at that history.
Harriet Wilson, we can call her essentially the mother of all female African-American writers. Our Nig was published in 1859. It was the first novel written by an African-American to be published on the North American continent. When she says Our Nig, or sketches of a life of a free black in a two-story white house north, showing as slavery's shadows fall even there by our Nig. Harriet was essentially bringing slavery home to folks who couldn't understand it being in their backyard.
One of the things that's important to think about is the isolation of enslaved New Englanders. And this is something that Harriet Wilson, who was in bondage, if not enslaved in New Hampshire, starting in the early 1830s, also experienced.
The history of African Americans in the North has only been recently discovered, so to speak.
You see references in newspapers and magazines still about how lily white New Hampshire is. New Hampshire has never been lily white, and it is not now.
It's only recently where people are understanding now that there was more to the story. It wasn't just the Pilgrims or the Puritans in Boston. Africans who were brought to New England, they have a story to tell.
In 1779, 20 slaves from Portsmouth petitioned the New Hampshire General Court. They too wanted to share in the freedom that the colonies were seeking. Their plea fell on deaf ears, and 14 of these men died as slaves. It is a particular privilege to be here to sign such an important law, even if it is a law that is centuries overdue.
We heard about the true honor of heritage and tradition. We heard about the true pain that many had felt, and we took the time to understand it. So tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we will see the Confederate flag come down.
We're more visual people than literary. They see that flag, they know exactly what they're looking at. Having other things to look at is paramount.
And this is why what I call sort of historical activists like Jerry Ann Bogus, like Valerie Cunningham, who are creating ways of remembering that are inclusive, that are truthful, right?
So that people can see, people can understand and realize that, unlike the flag, it's not going away.
Symbolism is important, but it is my hope that we do not forget about the other men, the women, and the children who were enslaved in the state of New Hampshire at the time of this petition. 1857, slavery is abolished in New Hampshire. We're just a little bit slow.
American history has never all been kind to the black story, the African story. It's been erased time and time and time again.
The last state to adopt the Martin Luther King holiday. Well, just a little bit slow, but we live free or die. The more we tell the stories and the more that we realize that this is not black history, this is our story. This is the American story.
William and Mary, hey, some people have studied up.
Once you include a black history, you have to ask yourself, what does it mean to the town? What does it mean to the individual, person who cherishes a certain ideal of New England?
Black people have been invisible people in this country. It's convenient to not see what you don't want to see, I suppose.